My name is Nicky Gonzalez Yuen. I'm the chair of the political science department here, and I'm excited to be teaching a summer class, super fast-paced. You're doing twice as much work each week. We're going to walk you through a PowerPoint. Those of you who have laptops up, you might want to open them up and go to the class website as well as the Catalyst page, and you might want to have both of those up. The website for the class is nypolisci.org. What you'll see is there are tabs across the top, and on the left, far right side, you'll see the class tab that's for the summer distance learning class. We actually have kind of a cool political system. We're the oldest democracy in the world right now. A flawed democracy, but a democracy nonetheless. And having said that we're a cool system with a lot of great stuff, we can do a lot better. And we actually need to do a lot better, in particular for individual citizens. Democracies require participation. And so what we want to help you do in this class is we want to help make your life go better through democratic participation. That requires effective citizenship, and it requires critical thinking. It means you're constantly evaluating the truth of what your leaders are telling you, what your teachers are telling you, what your peers are telling you, what you believe to be true. Can you look back at it and say, well, can I empirically verify that? Do I have good reason to believe that? Thinking critically. The challenge is that in the United States and in the world right now, things are moving really fast, and things are very, very complicated. The world is complicated. There are many, many points of view. Just take a look at this room right now. Just look around at each other and see the amazing multiculturalism that is embodied in this classroom, and multiply that by billions of people who are connected through the internet, who are connected through mail, through relationships, through the potential of nuclear destruction, through the common climate crises that we face, and things change very quickly. So what should you expect? It's a 4-unit college level class. It's on a short summer schedule, twice as fast, twice as much work. So think about this for a second. A college level class normally is 4 hours a week. So in a distance learning class, it's not like you're not putting in your 4 hours of classroom time. You actually are. Double that, and now you're at a summer class. Standard for college is for every unit in class, you're doing 2 units outside of class. Every hour in class, you're doing 2 outside of class. So during a normal school year, you'd be putting in 4 hours of classroom time, and then you'd be putting in a minimum of 8 hours of non-classroom time. That's college. You're going to need to be super organized. This is a college level class. It calls for regular reading, regular homework, quizzes, writing, and weekly hands-on learning. So that's what you should expect. It's going to be way fun. It'll be a lot of work though. So don't fool yourself thinking, oh, it's just college, you know, summer school. I'm not really having to work very hard. Yeah, you are. You are. But it'll be cool. And at the end of the class, you'll learn a lot. You'll be smarter. You'll have literally put together more neurons in your brain, and the circuitry will work faster. You'll probably be a little more confused, and that's okay, because that means you're probably thinking more critically. And the things that you thought were just so dead on certain, maybe you're going to be thinking, not quite sure, right? And that goes, Yanni, for every single thing I say. Take it with a grain of salt, okay? Can I have the next slide, Gina? It's not enough to be smart, and it's not enough to work hard. You have to actually be really well organized. So you need to get yourself organized and then stay organized, critical to your success. And if you're an online student, you need to be even more organized, because you don't have the daily reminder of your instructor saying, Richard, did you get your homework? Maybe, maybe not, right? You've got to make time in your life to study and to read. If you're not scheduling it, if you're not making time, you will fail. It's not going to happen accidentally on the wayside. So you've got to make time in your life. And that's actually probably the most important thing that you can do for yourself as a student. Make time in your life to study. Have a great attitude, Josh, about learning. How many of you have ever gone home and said, oh, I have homework I have to do tonight? As opposed to, I get to learn tonight. I have this instructor who's saying, here, read these things. This will expand your mind. Can I have the next slide, Gina? There are 5 core learning goals in the class, and every single one of our 12 units will come back to these learning goals. So pay attention when you go through the reading and you're thinking, what are we doing here? Why am I reading this? Just go back to the learning goals. These are all listed on the class syllabus. So the first learning goal is to just learn how to use the tools in a democratic society to make things work for you, to make the best possible lifestyle for your life and for your community. If we can teach you how to do that, that will be an amazing accomplishment. In order to be effective in using the tools of a democracy to make your life better, you need to understand the basic political landscape of the society. So you need to understand how a bill becomes a law, the major institutions of Congress, the presidency, courts, California system, state and local government. But it's not enough just to understand how the government works, because the politics in our society are driven by so much more than just formal governmental decisions. So you need to understand the extra-governmental politics. You need to understand the structure of mass media, social media. You need to understand how ideas are shaped and influenced, how your ideas are shaped and influenced. You need to understand the structure of corporations. You certainly need to understand the structure of corporate capitalism. If you don't understand those things, you'll be lost. And then you need to know the structure of race and gender and social class. If we don't understand those things, it's impossible to understand the structure of American politics, how outcomes happen. There's so much more to it than that simplified nonsense version of political reality. And if that's what you thought happened, and you were expert at that, and that's all you knew, you'd be totally mystified. You'd be baffled. Why is it that the vast majority of Americans want to raise taxes on wealthy people in this country, and yet it doesn't happen? Why? Not quite sure. Because you learned some other version of politics. Then it's not enough to just understand on what it looks like, but what we want you to understand then is how to participate effectively. How can you take the reins of the politics in the society and lead them in a direction that actually makes your life better, so that you get a good education, you get a good job. That job actually then leads to some kind of an income. So learning about how to participate in a democracy, the lifeblood of a democratic system is that participation. And so week by week by week, we'll be teaching you, all right, how do you register to vote? How do you get other people to vote? How do you initiate a petition that might have some actual influence? How could you reach out to other people with social media or a flyer, et cetera, et cetera? And then probably as important, if not more important than anything else, Bao, is how do you build the relationships that allow people to engage in the democratic process? And that's going to be an interesting challenge in an online class. If this were a face-to-face class, you'd have constant interaction with each other. As it is, you're going to be doing this through zeros and ones, through the internet. That'll be an interesting challenge. And yet, it's probably an appropriate challenge for a political science class focused on democracy in this era, because so many of our relationships, Jayesh, are in fact mediated through the internet. All right. So the fourth main learning goal then is, how do you think critically? What we want you to be able to do is look past what people are just saying on the surface and see, well, what's the real agenda? And that would be true of me in this class. What's my agenda? So let me now just be a little transparent. What is my agenda? My agenda is a radical democracy in this country. My agenda is a political system that actually represents real people. One way we can think about politics is who gets what, how, and when. And when we're talking about the what, we're typically talking about resources. In some ways, you could say this was value neutral. That is, it was simply the study of this process of resource allocation. But I think of politics as about the improvement of people's lives. And that's not value neutral. So if you think about politics as the improvement of people's lives, now you've inserted some value. And when I say people's lives, I mean regular people. I mean the everyday people who are dealing with the struggles of the society. Now, I tend to go in that direction. And when I say, look, I have an agenda, let me just be real clear about it. My agenda is that we build a society in which the vast majority of people have control over their lives and can build a society that works for them. Probably more important, Nina, than understanding my agenda is understanding your agenda. Part of thinking critically is understanding you have a point of view, you have values, you have something you want to have happen. So can you understand what it is that your values are? How do you turn your values into action? And then what is the effect on your life and on the life of people in your community by the actions you take, or Nellie, the actions maybe that you don't take? Master some key content areas. So it's not enough to just understand how a bill becomes a law, but you need to understand what's happening in the society right now that is going to affect me, and in fact is affecting me right now. There is not one component of our ecosystem right now. All of the elements that allow human civilization to continue, our water systems, soil, food production, fisheries, air, climate, all of those are in collapse right now. And all of the peer-reviewed studies would say, yep, we absolutely have a problem. And if we don't do something pretty fast, we're going to end up with a planet that looks unrecognizable to us right now. And it won't be a planet that you'll want your kids to grow up on. It's going to be hard. We are already at the point where the climate crisis is spiraling out of control. We see the effects of it daily. And the question now is, will we as a citizenry take action to mitigate the damage that is already being done? We would need to understand the politics of corporate capitalism and the politics of the injection of huge sums of money into the formal and informal political process. And then we would need to understand something about social class inequality. The fact that we have a more unequal society now than any time since maybe about 1928. And then we would need to understand something about the politics of race. That even within that very tippy boat, that very precarious boat, we're not all in the same situation. Some of us are right about to fall out into the ocean. Others of us are kind of more securely in the middle, maybe a little seasick, but more comfortable than the people who are hanging off the edges. We need to understand the gendered nature of the politics in the society right now. All of these learning goals can be found on the syllabus, on the overview and learning goals page. And if you slid down on that page, you'd see those 5. And you're going to want to be able to refer to those over and over and over again. If you ever do an extra credit assignment, I'm going to ask you, how did this relate to the class learning goals? All right, can I have the next page? For the assigned readings, what you'll do is you'll look to the class calendar each week, and almost all of the assigned readings are available online. There are also audio files that you can listen to for almost all of these readings. And for the textbook, we're actually in the process of considering a new textbook. So what I want you to do is go to the class syllabus page
and check there to see which textbook we would like you to get hold of.
A lot of the books that we have are in the library. We've got some loaner copies as well. All of that is listed on the required reading page of the class syllabus. So at the end of the summer quarter, if you would like to donate your book to the library to help some future student, we would gladly accept it. Although, frankly, I encourage you to keep every textbook you ever have. If you put time into it, it's a reference book that should go in your library.